Kia ora whānau, Mitch Zanstra here. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be interviewing the coaches of the New Zealand elite teams heading to Samoa, so the Open Men's, Open Women's, and the Under 19, Wahine and Tane. It's going to be awesome. First off, I'm chatting with Paddy Rimini. He's the New Zealand Under 19s coach for the second year in a row. He's an awesome guy. I've had spend a little bit of time with him in the canoe and off the canoe. The latest was during secondary schools. We'd train every morning, and I would just chew his ear off really and get a really good insight on his mentality. And he's sounds like an awesome coach. He's a top paddler, paddled for New Zealand, done some big races around the world. He's really switched on, and I think he's just a great mentor and leader for these young men that he's been coaching. So really a perfect, or not a perfect, but a real good man to have in that role for the New Zealand men 19s team. So without further ado, let's get into it. First off, bro, thanks for joining us and for your time, bro. I know you're a busy man, and congrats on the team as well, the selection. But before we get into that, maybe a little bit about yourself. So who is Paddy? Who is the paddler, the coach, the person?
Heck, that's deep, bro. That's deep to start with. No, all good, brother. I guess the underlining or what props me up is I found something I'm truly passionate about. Um, like my whole life from when I was blooming running around with no nappy on. I can remember always thinking, like my earliest memory is I would have been maybe 4 or 5 around that age, and I remember thinking I'm going to be an athlete.
Yeah.
Probably not an athlete then, but I knew I was really good at something.
Yeah.
And I knew at that age, I have a vivid memory of just knowing, I knew how to throw a ball around, and
Yeah, right.
I just, just those fondest memories. So my whole life was sort of dedicated to land-based, explosive sort of full contact
Yeah.
area. You know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Most guys like us are like that. So that was sort of my upbringing, right up until 2009, when my son and a good mate of mine introduced me to WAKA. So my whole upbringing was about giving to people.
Yeah.
And I've always sort of loved that sort of space. And it took me until I turned 30 to realize, to find something I was truly passionate about, and that sort of brought me to the WAKA armor world.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
you were playing at a pretty decent level of rugby beforehand.
yeah. Yeah, I was handy. I was handy for our province here.
Yeah.
Um, Firstly, when I turned 20, I moved to Auckland. Got sort of a semi-professional contract with North Harbour,
Oh, yeah.
and but I was living out South Auckland. I was living in Takanini with
Yeah.
my old man, so I was traveling over the hill every day, over the shore every day.
Yeah, right.
And I just way back then, that was like 96, just before, that was the year rugby turned professional and we got the franchises running.
Mm.
um I was traveling over to the shore from Takanini, and that, like, on a good day, was probably 45 minutes of driving.
Oh, true.
Which isn't much, but on a hard day it was sort of an hour and a half.
Yeah, right.
And I did that for a few months, and then I just said, no, I'm not going over there anymore. So I stayed out South Auckland and ended up playing for Ardmore Marist, and made it through to the counties sides and stuff like that. And then I moved back to the Wairarapa after, I think, 2 years, for
Yeah.
family reasons. My brother was pretty crook at the time, and I just, like, he was real crook. So I kept shooting back home to see him, and then I'd go back up north, and that just become too much. I wanted to be around him more often.
Yeah.
So I moved home and ended up playing, I don't know, 90 odd games for Wairarapa.
Me.
Um, hold the I hold the most points in a season here for the province. Played New Zealand Divisional, New Zealand Heartland, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so rugby was, yeah, I I was really good at it. I would put it this way: I was really good at it, but I played it because other people sort of liked me playing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I actually wanted to be a softball. I wanted to play softball for New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
But when I got that semi-professional chance, I thought, oh, I'll give that a go, and I
Yeah.
ended up staying with that for 20 odd years.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then, so how did the transition to paddling come about?
Well, my mate Joe Nuku, he had my son. My son at the time was sort of 12, um, and he had all our sort of mischief rangatahi from around the Wairarapa, and he was taking them through the WAKA process, and he took them to nationals, and he
Yeah.
said to come down and give it a go and all the rest of it. But for me, I was like, nah, man, I'm into the rugby thing,
Yeah.
and I attended the national sprints. And I attended the nationals, and at nationals I quit rugby.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when I saw what WAKA, when I saw the environment
Mm.
and the way people were, and then also these young men who were pretty mischief in our community, they were all whānau, but just mischief young people.
Yeah.
And when I saw the way they reacted without smashing into people, um, man, I was hooked. So I went to at the time there was the Xylo stand at Nationals,
Yeah.
the pedals from Aussie. I went and bought me one of those, and I quit rugby. I just went back home because that's obviously pre-season time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting
Yeah.
phone calls, hey man, far. I said, nah, man, I found something new.
Yeah, man.
And from that moment on, man, I was in.
No, awesome. Awesome. And obviously you've developed quite a good thing. You've paddled some big races and whatnot. But kind of moving into the coaching now, you took the New Zealand 19 young men to London last year. How was that experience, and what did you kind of learn or take away from taking them?
Um, it was first and foremost, man, it was unbelievable.
Mm.
Um, the whole process. I knew there was talented young people out there, but I've never been around so many young talented um, young men that are that all have the same high achieving value
Yeah, right.
or values.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't really do a lot of coaching with them. They were all talented. They were all very fast. My only role within the space was just gelling them together,
Mm.
which was quite easy when you have, you know, seven young men that want to achieve at a high level. It was real easy. I think honestly, if I had a said, um, the only way you're going to get fast is you got to chop 500 trees down before we go to Worlds, I think they would have done it
Yeah,
because
right.
they believed in the process and they put all of their eggs into the basket to achieve.
Yeah.
So it was really quite easy, and it was a cool space to be around, man. Real cool space to be around.
Mm. Is that kind of like the first kind of coaching you've done, or obviously you've done a little bit with club and stuff as well?
No, man, I've sort of been coaching in the WAKA space for probably 13 years, 14 years, something like that. But the first time I've ever coached at that level.
Yeah.
Um, and
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 why
when I say
was it?
coach,
Why did
pardon,
you why did you want to give that a go, like the under 19 and the Tane?
I just feel like and maybe it's just the way I am. I sort of feel like I have the skills sort of to accelerate
Mm.
young, especially young minds to get to another level. I've got the skill base. I believe I've got the skill base to help develop that and accelerate that learning. And I just love being in the space. I love being in the development space of young, especially young tani. I just find it such a pleasing space to be in. There's a few other things that sort of persuaded me. I saw, like, early on, like with the elite campaign, I spent a bit of time with the young guys when we were overseas, like when I was part of the elite campaign with the Premier Men, and I saw a bit of that. I saw some of the young men not take full advantage when they were away overseas. It was more like they were overseas and, no mum and dad around, they were going to play around. Or, just be young men, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I sort of felt like while I was there, I had an obligation to tell them that, man, you can't be like that in this space. And to be honest, like I always thought I wanted to coach them, but it was actually Mike Nuku who sort of pushed me into, not pushed me, but he put my name forward when Hawaii got cancelled. And so after he put my name, that to me was like the cherry I needed. So now I find myself in this space.
No, it's awesome, bro. I think you're definitely like the perfect person to be in that job. Just having chats with you and whatnot. So this year, what did kind of the process look like, the trial process, and what did you guys get up to?
I had 2 trials, and my learnings from last year was I was going to, for the first trial, my mindset was, last year I had the first trial north, so I had it in Hamilton. And what I found was I ended up getting, because a lot of the paddler base is north, I ended up getting a lot of people that weren't quite ready for that level, but they just wanted to see where they were at. So I decided this year I was going to move the first trial to Wellington, where I knew there wasn't a lot of our young paddlers from. Like, we got good paddlers down here, but the majority of the top tier paddlers come north, live north. And I thought, if I move the trial south to Wellington, I will get only the ones that really want to be part of it.
Nice.
Because for me, brother, it's the first thing for me is that they want to be part of it. Like, I don't just want to take someone because they think they're good. I want someone who wants to be part of the process, because then I know that they will check whatever ego they have. They will check it at the door. And if, I hope that doesn't sound crude or anything, but it's really hard when you have ego you got to try and smooth out. So by having the trial in Wellington, it was going to make it, I knew I would only get guys that want to be part of the process, and fortunately that's what I got.
How many boys you get for those first few?
The first trial was, I think we had 16. I might have been 14. We might have 14 young men. Jeez, I can't remember now. We had 2 canoes anyway, and we had a couple of spears. So we had 2 canoes on the water and a couple of spears.
And what do you look for, like, when you come to those camps? I know you talked to me a little bit about like mentality and stuff like that, and seeing their feedback and seeing if they make changes and whatnot. Is there anything else you kind of look at through that process?
For me, the first thing I look at, like, I don't even get on like the day one of the trial is nothing's on the water. I do everything on land, and it's more so just to see where they can push themselves to. And I just do the basic stuff, but I just put heaps of pressure on them. And all I'm trying to do is fatigue them. And then when they get on the water, I can see where they are at when they're tired. And that helps me to see if when under pressure, they make everything that they're trying to show me falls off the boat, or they can hold on to that. So for me at this level, it's all about the top 2 inches. How can they how do they work under pressure when they're fatigued and their forearms are tight? Can they still keep good form in their technique?
Yeah.
When I'm pushing them really hard, can they stay focused on the task at hand, or do they crack? It's all top two for me at this level. And what makes it even easier is the talent of the paddler that shows up.
Mm.
I know I'm not going to teach them how to make themselves fast because they've already proved that. I'm not going to be able to in the trials make them adjust their own stroke individually within a crew um, without pulling them aside and saying you got to do this and that. I need to be able to critique while they're in the canoe and then let them make the adjustment and see if they can adjust.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm just looking for those little things like that. There's not big differences at the top level. You're fully aware at the top level, it's just the small things you got to critique. It's not major things. And if there's major things, then they need more development. So straight away you can say, okay, you're in the development stage, or you're in the stage where a few critiques and you're right there.
Yeah. No, that's me. And so you do a lot of 6-man stuff as well, and you're next to on a boat or something. Is that how you roll?
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm a firm believer. Um, I'm a firm believer. Please don't. I hope your viewers don't get annoyed at what I'm about to say, but I'm a firm believer that you should coach from the side, not from inside the canoe.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because from a coaching aspect, at this level, the paddlers already know boat speed. They already know how to get that. From a coaching aspect, though, you need everyone in tune, everyone synchronized, and that's a real hard thing to do within the canoe.
Yeah.
So I prefer to be on the side just watching, and I just have a few prompts. Like I know if when they set up, if some hands are higher than others, there's a setup difference. So
Yeah.
I know that the entry point is going to be different. I know when they press through the water, if their top hand finishes in different spaces, either higher or lower to the gunnel, I know straight away there's different pressures and different lengths of strokes. So from the side, I always make sure that I'm synchronizing where they set up, and I'm synchronizing when they release the canoe. And if they do that together, then I know the pressure's even within the canoe.
Yeah, right.
And I can't, and for me, I can't do that within the canoe. I've got to do it from a side view.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are two kind of main things you kind of look at the start.
Yeah, yeah. And their body movement. Are
Yeah.
they someone who sits still? They prefer to sit still, or do they like to move? I like to play with the tempo of the stroke. So like all I'll do is I'll tell them I'll tell the crew I'm coaching there's a call which is 1, 2, or 3, and that dictates the length of stroke. So 1 is like 1 second, so you've got 1 second and you're in and out, sort of like an up tempo stroke. Then
Yeah.
you've got a 2, so it's like a 2 beat, and a 3, which is a long. And I only use that analogy so they can in their mind get the feeling of what it might feel like to them to be a longer versus a shorter stroke.
Yeah.
And I'll just call those prompts. I'll just say next set, 2 sets of 1, and see how they transition into it and see how they transition out, and who moves and who doesn't move within that space. I'm just looking for those little things because you can critique those things. It's hard to critique good technique if they've already got a good technique. It's more about synchronizing the movement and the stroke pattern.
No, it's
For
awesome.
me.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So I just got the team here, bro. So you've got 8. So you've got Jackson, Hippie, Narongo, Waitawhiti, Kiriopa, Mahaki, Albert, Tudea, Farrell, Garbrick, Sam Lees, Tamati Hita, Te Rua, Ko, Tuku, Kora, Heavy, and Zion Herbert. So 8, you got 8 at the moment, is that right?
Yeah.
So why 8, and what do these boys bring? I know most of them, pretty fit, strong young men. But what else do they bring?
Well, Pharrell, that young man is such a talented leader. He just has this aura about him, and his own development and the development of the team is just years ahead of his age.
Mm.
And he brings a real calmness, and his paddling ability, man, he's not far off cracking the top guys, you know.
Yeah.
He's not far off it. He's probably there. He just needs another year or two to get there.
Yeah.
But he brings a real calmness and a controlled feel to the canoe. And he's multi-talented. I can put him in any seat and we don't lose anything.
Yeah, me.
Has a great feel in the surf.
Yeah.
Just an all-round, like he would go fit into any premier top 10 premier team in New Zealand. He would fit in there and you wouldn't know that he's only not even quite 19 yet.
Yeah.
Tamahita, very talented paddler, carrying a little bit of a shoulder at the moment, but very talented paddler. You can tell in his technique and the way he paddles, he brings a real experience type meaner about him.
Yep.
And he's got a real world of experience around the ocean and surf. Yeah. And it's quite nice when we're out on the water. He won't say much, but the things he says are real cherries, you know, and the boys, you can see the boys take it on. So very similar to Pharrell, but just probably doesn't talk as much as Pharrell. Zenon, unbelievable, man. He trialled last year and then ended up pulling out of the sprint team, but I was looking at him as part of my middles makeup.
Yeah.
Talented. It's in his blood, man. Like but to his credit, like it's fully to his credit, he hasn't made the team because of his bloodline. He's made the team because he's a very, very good paddler.
Yeah.
Very wise, good caller for the canoe. He's really calm, very accurate, and he has that bass in his voice when you're in the canoe, and you know what it'll be like. You have a voice, and everyone responds to it.
Yeah, one of those guys.
He's that guy, man. Like, and he's very calm. It's quite strange. Like he's one of those guys who seems like he's too relaxed.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's intense. You know, it's just hard to describe it. But he just brings a good calmness to our canoe. Sam Lee.
Yeah.
He trialled last year for the sprint team, and his work ethic, his ability to stay focused, like he missed out last year because he just needed some development in his stroke. And he's worked on it over the last year. He's obviously worked on it. And this year, man, you can't fault him. His work ethic and his mindset and his focus in the canoe, it's almost scary. Like he's so determined to do well.
Yeah.
And he's earned his spot in this team. So that's a credit to him over the last year because he missed out last year.
Yeah.
But he just needed a little bit of development. Funny thing is I found some footage from our trials last year, and I put it up of him on our little group chat. I put it up of him and Kaitawhiti from the trial last year, the sprint trials last year. And like if you saw them then and now, you would think, no, that's not the same person a year ago. They've done so much work. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Kaitawhiti. Sorry, brother?
That's what you kind of want to see, like that improvement.
Yeah. Well, I'm a firm believer that as a coach, my responsibility is to give the paddlers that are in my space something to improve, or they need to have a cherry. For me, I believe that my athletes need to have a cherry. They need to have something to improve themselves. And it might be a little thing. It might be, you need to get stronger in the gym, or you need to get fitter on land, or you need to develop surf, or you need to develop whatever. But it needs to be something, just something to give them that motivation to keep doing what they're doing. And those two are two guys that went away went around good people and developed. Like I didn't do that. I just said, you guys, you need to develop these sort of things. They went away and did the work. They went away to good teams. They went away to good people, good coaches, and learned it. They've come back and they've earned their right to be part of this team. Kai Tawhiti, another, he's a steerer, paddler, excellent in the V1, OC1, excellent team man, would do anything for the team. He's 100% about team. He's 100% about whatever we need to do, let's just do it. He's that guy. A good man to be part of this team. TK, he's another one who's very talented. Last year he trialed, he still needed a bit of development. He went away and did that. A good thing for him, with him and Mahaki, they went to a 2-week camp with Harota to Tahiti. Had Kevin, one-on-one with them. Had some of the best coaches in Tahiti, like that knowledge with them two going away, because they actually missed the second trial because they were there. But they did enough in the first trial, and with their experience, I thought I'm going to pull them in and see if there's anything that they can pass on to these boys from what they've just experienced. But TK, very experienced steerer, a very talented steerer, and a very good paddler in any seat. Mahaki's the same. He's his stroke is more intense, so he's a little bit more of a sprinter. But coming back from Tahiti, he's really developed a longer feel through the water, which is going to help him big time. But another one that's like TK, very determined person, very focused individual. Have we missed anyone?
Maybe Jackson.
Who, sorry? Jackson. That young man, last year when he trialed, quite unbelievable. Like his stroke, it's strange. Like maybe it's the people that have coached him. No, it is definitely the people that have coached him. But he seems to have a real calm stroke. Gives the crew plenty of time through the water. Has a clean, crisp return. Very accurate in everything he does. Very determined, very focused. Not really a talker, but a very, very talented paddler. And he's going to be, in years to come, he's going to be like one of the top guys in New Zealand, I believe. But he just has a really calm stroke that pulls the team together. And just his demeanor, it sort of just follows on from his demeanor. And all these young men, brother, they all are a reflection of their whānau, like their parents. Yep. Like you can tell you can tell that they've been supported and not pushed. That they've been brought up with value and in a space of whanaungatanga, all that good stuff. You can just tell they just bring a good calmness to the space.
Yeah, you definitely see that with those boys when they are around races and stuff like that. They're all Bro, I mean that's exciting, having all those fellas in the team. We only got 5 minutes left, bro, but
wait.
No, it's good kōrero. So moving forward, bro, 3 months, kind of what's the plan? You obviously got 8 there, bro, so you take 7 to Samoa. Is that the plan?
The next camp is this weekend, and I'll be one of them will miss out this weekend. Sorry, we'll be there, but after this weekend there'll be 7, and I'll be naming 6 with 1 non-traveling reserve. So I'll be taking only 6 to Samoa. After this camp, I'll have to let one of them go, and then the next camp will determine who will be the 7th person, and then it's all about the 6 guys going to Samoa. Hey. So still not an easy task, man. Like it's Yeah, it is what it is. As a coach, um, I'm there to be part of the process and enjoy their space. But reality is, I've also got to make a call that is going to hurt one of them, and I have to live with that. And that's just the way it is. Like our goal is quite simple. We're not going there for second space. Um, we're going there to be the best in the world. That that won't change. That won't change, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure the six best athletes will be in the canoe that go to Samoa.
Yeah. And so you guys got camps what every few weeks after that?
Every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks we're together. Yeah.
That's awesome. Bro.
I'll send you an invite. We're going to do one in Taupo, and we're looking at doing a downwinder. So a V1 on one day. The next day will be 6-man, both downwind. So both 42K or whatever it is across.
Right. Yeah, me and JB and the boys will come race you.
Hi, brother.
6-man and then singles as well. And then last question before we wrap it up. In terms of culture, though, in terms of the team culture, what's kind of do the boys kind of just set that themselves on kind of how who they are, or you kind of put some stuff in to kind of bring the boys together a bit tighter?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. Like I've told them, there's 6 seats in the canoe. You just take the seat you want. This is your team, not mine. I'm just here to guide you. But I've also said to them there is some standards when you're at this level. Right now, you have every junior paddler in Aotearoa, every male junior paddler in Aotearoa wanting that seat, and you've been gifted an opportunity to take that seat. How you behave in the canoe and off the canoe is a reflection of this team, and this team is the mana of every club that's represented in Aotearoa. So we need to make sure that we set this team and guide this team at the highest level in all areas and all facets. And these young men have been selected not only because they're good paddlers, but they're very, very astute young men who have a high threshold for achieving. So although I've set a few ground rules, they police and they rule the space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. You kind of give them more responsibility as well, like it's their team. So
yeah, 100%.
Awesome, bro.
Like I wish, bro, if I was 19, I'd jump back in there, but I'm not. So
bro, awesome. Cheers for the chat. Wish you fellas all the best for your journey, bro, and over in Samoa. Everyone's obviously watching and hoping you guys do well, come back with the gold, and yeah, we'll catch up soon. Maybe come for a paddle.
Yeah, brother, please.
Awesome, bro. Thank you.
No, also, brother, thank you, bro, and thank you for having us on.
Legit.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah, bro.